All right, so Brazil in the summer. Huh.
Yeah.
Beaches, the vibe. It's tempting, right?
Really
Tempting.
tempting.
But planning a trip, especially with all the AI stuff popping up, it's almost like a whole other trip in itself.
Yeah.
So we're diving into, you sent over this Portuguese blog post
Right.
all about using ChatGPT to plan the perfect Brazilian summer vacation.
Mm.
And hopefully this will save our listeners some time and stress in the planning process.
It's pretty amazing how things have changed. I mean, we used to go to travel agents, right?
Yeah.
Then it was all DIY online booking, and now AI is stepping in as like this new kind of travel companion.
It is. It's like, and this blog post really gets into how powerful ChatGPT can be. Like imagine you just say, hey, I want a week in Fortaleza, mostly beaches and incredible food. And boom, it just spits out this detailed itinerary
Yeah.
down to like the best restaurants to get fresh seafood.
Exactly. And it's not just about like, okay, here's the plan, follow it. Let's say you wake up one morning and you're like, you know what? I need something a little slower today.
Yeah.
You can tell ChatGPT that, like, hey, can we adjust? Swap out this really busy sightseeing day with something a little more relaxed.
Okay, so it's like having this super organized, hyper organized friend who knows Brazil like the back of their hand.
Yeah.
But let's back up for a sec, because the blog is in Portuguese, right?
Right.
So for those of us who don't speak Portuguese, what's the big idea behind this whole ChatGPT for Brazil thing?
So the author really argues that Brazil, just because it's so big and has so much variety, can be a little overwhelming to plan a trip for.
Right.
And what ChatGPT can do is analyze tons of data, everything from weather patterns to local events,
Yeah.
even reviews, to tailor an itinerary that fits, your interests specifically,
Yeah.
whether you're a hardcore hiker or just a beach bum who wants to find the perfect caipirinha.
Okay, so it's not just pulling these like generic itineraries from the web. It's actually like understanding what you want and like crunching the data to make it happen for you.
Exactly. The blog actually gives a good example. They talk about a trip to Chapada Diamantina, which is this region that's known for its waterfalls, hiking trails. ChatGPT can not only map out the best trails based on, what your fitness level is,
Okay.
but it can also suggest places to stay nearby, like pousadas.
Right.
Those charming little guest houses that are kind of unique to Brazil. You get that truly authentic experience.
That's what it's all about, right? The authentic experience.
Exactly.
I'm always looking for those off the beaten path places.
Yeah.
Does the blog talk about how ChatGPT can help with that?
They do, yeah. They highlight how ChatGPT can suggest destinations beyond the typical tourist spots, like let's say tranquil beaches along the Espírito Santo coastline, or cultural experiences in the Santa Catarina countryside.
Okay, so places that most people haven't even heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Places that might not even be on your radar, but actually perfectly fit, your adventurous spirit.
Okay, so now I'm picturing myself on some hidden beach, sipping on, wait, what's that coconut drink they have in Brazil?
You're probably thinking of agua de coco, fresh coconut water straight from the coconut.
Yes, agua de coco on a secluded beach. See, this is why I need a trip to Brazil. But seriously, this whole AI travel planning is making me rethink how I approach trips.
Yeah.
What about group travel? Because I had trips where it feels like you're herding cats. Everyone wants to do something different.
Yeah.
Does the blog post talk about group travel?
It does. That's actually where ChatGPT's ability to kind of manage different preferences really shines.
Okay.
So they give the example of a group of friends in Buzios, and some want a party and others want like more of a chill beach time.
Yeah.
ChatGPT can actually, suggest activities and even restaurants that cater to everyone.
Okay.
So no one feels like they're missing out.
It's like having a virtual mediator who also happens to be a Brazil expert. But let's be real. Summer in Brazil is peak season. It can get pricey.
Yeah.
Does the blog address that at all?
It does. And it makes this compelling point that ChatGPT can actually help you save money even during peak season.
Okay.
Think about it. It has access to so much data on flight prices, accommodation deals, even like local events that might offer free or low-cost entertainment.
What?
So instead of spending hours comparing hotel prices online, you can just ask ChatGPT, hey, find me something charming near the beach, but also, budget friendly.
Exactly, yeah. And hopefully not a total, dive.
Right. And the blog even mentions using ChatGPT to find those hidden gem restaurants loved by locals, which are often much more affordable than the tourist traps.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be a game changer, especially for someone like me who loves to travel but hates spending hours planning. Boy, But what about the things ChatGPT can't do? I mean, can it really capture the vibe of a place?
Hmm.
The energy, the culture?
That's a great question. That's a great question. And it's one the blog post kind of touches on, but doesn't fully explore. You're right. AI can't replace that feeling you get when you step off the plane, hear the music, smell the food. That sensory explosion that is Brazil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But maybe it can at least point us in the right direction, Like, could I ask ChatGPT to find me those little cafes where the locals hang out?
Yeah.
Or those street markets where you find, like, the unique crafts and souvenirs?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about framing the right prompts. Instead of asking for like generic things to do, you could be more specific.
Hmm.
Tell it you're interested in experiencing like the local music scene,
Yeah.
or you want to learn about traditional Brazilian crafts.
Oh, I like that. Speaking of music, the blog mentions how music is basically the heartbeat of Brazil.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to see a live samba show. Maybe even try some samba steps myself.
Oh, wow. That's a perfect example of how ChatGPT can go beyond just logistics. Imagine telling it, I want to experience authentic samba music, not the touristy stuff. It could point you to local venues, maybe even festivals happening during your trip, that you wouldn't find in a typical guidebook.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
But what about the language barrier? I mean, I know a few basic Portuguese phrases, but I'm not exactly fluent. Could ChatGPT help with that?
Definitely. Think of it as your on-the-go translator. You could ask it to translate phrases, even entire conversations if you need to. And it could even give you like cultural tips, like how to greet people or what's considered polite in different situations.
So it's like having a cultural coach right there in your pocket.
Yeah.
That takes away a lot of the anxiety that comes with traveling to a country where you don't speak the language.
Yeah.
But let's talk about something a bit more practical. Getting around in Brazil, especially with all the different transportation options, it can be a challenge. Does the blog touch on that at all?
It does. And it highlights how ChatGPT can be a lifesaver when it comes to navigating Brazil's transportation system. It can compare different options, taking into account cost, time, even your comfort level. Let's say you want to get from Rio to São Paulo. It could tell you which option is best, whether it's flying, taking a bus, or even renting a car.
And I'm guessing it can also factor in things like safety and reliability, right? Because I've heard stories about bus rides in Brazil that were, let's just say, adventurous.
Absolutely. You can tell ChatGPT your priorities, like, I prioritize safety and comfort over speed, and it will adjust its recommendations accordingly. It can also provide real-time updates on traffic conditions, potential delays, even suggest alternate routes if needed.
So it's like having a personal navigator that's constantly looking out for you and making sure you get to your destination safely and efficiently. But what about those times when you want to get off the beaten path?
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to explore the Amazon rainforest, could ChatGPT help me plan that kind of adventure?
It certainly could. It can help you find reputable tour operators, suggest eco-lodges or campsites, even provide packing lists tailored to the specific environment you'll be in. Remember, ChatGPT is all about accessing and analyzing information.
So basically, if there's information available online about it, ChatGPT can probably find it and use it to help you plan your trip.
Exactly. And that includes things like safety guidelines, visa requirements, even currency exchange rates. It can be your one-stop shop for all your pre-trip research.
Okay, this is all starting to sound pretty amazing, but I'm also curious about the potential downsides. The blog post is pretty enthusiastic about ChatGPT, but are there any risks or challenges that we should be aware of?
That's a really important point, and one that the blog doesn't really address. I think it's crucial to remember that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. We need to be mindful of potential biases in the data that ChatGPT is trained on.
That's a good point. Can you give an example of what you mean?
Sure. Let's say you're asking ChatGPT for recommendations on restaurants or activities. The algorithm might prioritize places that have a lot of positive reviews online, but that might not necessarily reflect the most authentic or culturally rich experiences. It's important to use your own judgment and do your own research to supplement the information provided by AI.
So it's all about finding that balance between leveraging the power of technology and using our own critical thinking skills.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to remember that travel is about more than checking things off a list. It's about serendipitous encounters, spontaneous adventures, and those moments of genuine human connection that you can't plan for.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best travel experiences are the ones that happen when you least expect them.
Exactly. And while AI can help us plan and organize, it's important to leave room for those unexpected moments of magic that make travel so special.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the practical side of using ChatGPT for travel planning. But I'm also curious about how it could enhance our cultural understanding of a place like Brazil. The blog mentions this briefly, but I'd like to dig a little deeper. I'm thinking about things like art, history, even folklore. Could ChatGPT help us connect with those aspects of Brazilian culture?
I think it really has the potential to, especially if we think beyond just logistics. Like, imagine asking ChatGPT to create a walking tour of, a certain neighborhood in Rio based on its history, or to recommend some books or films that could give us some insights into Brazilian folklore.
Yeah, it's almost like having a personal cultural curator
Yeah.
guiding you toward those experiences that really align with your interests. But are there limitations there? I mean, can AI really capture those nuances of a culture, those things you can only really learn through firsthand experience?
That's a good point. And I think it's important to remember that AI can provide a good starting point, a framework for understanding, but it can't really replace, that depth and complexity of actual human interaction. Those conversations that you have with locals, the stories they share, their perspectives, those are the things that really make a culture come alive.
You're right. It's about using AI to kind of open those doors. But then you got to step through those doors and engage with the world, in a meaningful way.
Absolutely.
Speaking of engagement, the blog also mentions how ChatGPT can help with group travel, especially when you're trying to like align different interests, preferences.
Right. It can act as that sort of virtual mediator, helping groups find common ground. Imagine like a family going to Brazil, and you've got teenagers who are probably more interested in surfing and social media than historical landmarks.
Oh, tell me about it. Trying to balance everyone's interests can be a total nightmare when planning a trip.
Yeah, exactly. But ChatGPT can suggest activities that kind of appeal to a range of ages and interests, like maybe a day trip to a national park, where there are hiking trails for the nature lovers and beaches for the sunbathers. It can even recommend restaurants with those really diverse menus so everybody finds something they enjoy.
Okay, so it's like having a digital concierge who knows how to keep everyone happy.
Yep.
But let's be real, even with the best planning, things don't always go as planned, right? Especially in a country as big and diverse as Brazil.
Hmm.
What about those unexpected hiccups? Can ChatGPT help us navigate those?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Think of it as your on-the-go problem solver. Flight delays, lost luggage, sudden changes in plans. ChatGPT can access real-time information and offer some solutions, whether it's finding a hotel room last minute, suggesting some other transportation options, maybe even helping you communicate with local authorities if needed.
It's like having a virtual travel buddy who's always got your back. And that peace of mind is pretty invaluable when you're in a new environment. But I'm also thinking about the bigger picture here. We've talked a lot about how ChatGPT can improve those practical aspects of travel, but what about that, that transformative potential?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine using ChatGPT to learn like some basic Portuguese phrases before your trip, or to do some research on the history and cultural significance behind the places you're visiting.
Right. So it's not just about planning the trip. It's about, deepening our understanding, our appreciation of the culture.
Exactly. It's about using AI to foster a much more meaningful and enriching travel experience.
Hmm.
And I think that's what this blog post is getting at ultimately, how technology can help us connect with the world in these new and exciting ways.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it seems like ChatGPT is more than just a travel planning tool. It's almost like a gateway to a whole new way of experiencing travel.
Yeah.
One that's personalized, efficient, and surprisingly insightful.
I totally agree. And while it's important to, keep in mind the limitations of AI, I think it has the potential to revolutionize how we travel, make it more accessible, more engaging, and ultimately more fulfilling.
Well said. So to our listener, as you embark on your Brazilian summer adventure, don't forget to pack your curiosity, your sense of adventure, and of course, your trusty AI companion. Who knows what amazing discoveries await you?